This is episode 8 of the Wilderness Locals podcast. On this episode, we sit down with the president of Kifaru International, Aron Snyder, and talk about traditional archery, what the future holds, and conservation. This podcast is brought to you by Kifaru International, the toughest hunting gear on the planet, bar none. Frontiersman gear, high quality, completely custom handmade knives made in the heart of the Peace Country. And as always, we are also brought to you by Just Shooting Arrows, BC's premier archery shop. Caught us way off guard. I just walked into a job site and then Wacey had to duck into a closet or something.
He's in the closet anyway.
Yeah. Well, I've shared a tent with him, so.
Awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not as cool as it seems.
especially when I'm eating mountain houses for a living. It's not the best place to be.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, Lord.
Thanks for coming. Bullshit, no, I know you're busy.
Yeah, man.
No problem. Actually, guys, I flew in last night and got to work early. Just kind of finished up all the meetings, so everything's good.
Right on. You were down guiding for Audad. How many Audads were you end up being in with, kills? Did you guide to? I guess 17 clients, I guess, total of mine anyway.
I just listened to that podcast Rob did, and it's that sounds like just a panic, man. I want to go do that.
It was cool. They were second hind titty, but yeah, we got it done. But yeah, it was good.
One day, if the border ever opens, we'll have to come down.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, how much shit was Rob catching over missing that javelina that you posted? I seen some of the comments. I was laughing.
Not as much shit as me packing out that fucking sheep. Neither one were a bright idea to post.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know why people get so hurt over some of that stuff, but whatever.
It's like people watching for me. I just laugh, but it's like, you really think I don't know how to debone a fucking animal or gut one? I had people messaging me on how to do it. It's like, guys, I've shot probably 200 animals this year. Do you really think I need fucking help? I'm just trying to break the frame. Just leave me alone, please.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Audad hunting's kind of taken off since you got started with it, eh? So because I knew about Audad hunting years ago, but it kind of really was never a thing that I was aware of. But now it just seems like it's gaining popularity really fast.
Yeah, I actually get a lot of shit about. I invented the color green Velcro, Audad hunting, and traditional archery because it's already my friends fucking with me. But yeah, I mean, it's a poor man's sheep hunt, and it's actually, it's an adventure. I mean, it's not like with a gun, it's a gimme. It's like grocery shopping with a gun, but for a stick bow, even a compound, you definitely got to put some work in. So yeah,
no, it looks like a good time to be down there chasing them things. And whatever vision I had of Texas in my head is definitely not what you were posting. That is some rugged ass country.
I was laughing because I had a bunch of people giving me shit for hunting Texas and Oklahoma because the border closed down. Usually I'm up there for all of October. So I just hung down here and hunted multiple areas in the States. And I'm thinking the vision you guys have of fucking Texas is definitely not where I'm at. It's a lot different. So
yeah, on the podcast with Rob, they were saying they got their ass kicked pretty good. It looked awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, I tried to warn them, especially Rob. I'm like, all that shit you've talked the last 2 or 3 years about Texas, you're about to get your shit pushed in because it's not what you think it is. Are you recording? As I'm getting your shit pushed in, I should probably watch my mouth.
I just hit record from the start, and then we can kill it wherever. I'm pretty decent at editing these things, so I have to edit all the times Wacey says anyways. So.
Yeah, it's like hanging around with an Australian. It's like, for us, it's like saying
Yeah.
What do you think, Aaron? If you were to put mule deer and Audad stalking side by side, what do you think is a little harder?
Audad, because of the eyeballs. It's hard to get them alone. Mule deer you can get by themselves, so stalking two eyes is when when Rob shot his, I think there was 40 in that group. He kept calling it a biomass because that's how they defend each other. Like he had a lot of frontal shots where we'd get into 20, and their defense, they line up and kind of walk at you like the Civil War and protect the weak behind them. But it's a frontal shot, which he wasn't, comfortable with taking. But mule deer don't do that, or they usually run away. But bedded, you're dealing with 2 to 4 eyes compared to 120. Yeah, it's a nightmare trying to shoot a big one, especially.
That's awesome, though. Just come at me.
Yeah.
So the kind of the premise of this podcast is sort of more just hunting stories and that kind of thing. And we're kind of having guys on like you that have killed everything and kill a million animals a year. And then we just had my buddy on, I think yesterday, and he killed his first deer this year. So we're kind of talking to a bunch of people and kind of like a no bullshit, no ego kind of, just straight kind of campfire stuff,
Cool. Yeah, I'm good for whatever.
Yeah. So basically we start all of these by just being like, how'd you get into hunting, and I think I've heard that story on your podcast a few times, but
yeah. As far as how I got into hunting in general or stick bow,
whatever you want.
I mean, just hunting. My dad sort of kind of hunted. He was a bit of an alcoholic, so it was more driving around with a gun. And then I worked on a trail crew team, which is where I kind of got into the backpack hunting when I was in high school, where we would clear all the wilderness trails out with like crosscut saws, and we'd have loppers for brush and hatchets and shit, whatever. And then I got into bow hunting, then, but I wasn't as serious. And then I got injured when I was in the military and got a little bit more, had more time off, got a little bit more serious, into it at that point, and then got real serious after that, started shooting a lot of tournaments more than hunting, and hunting some. And then, obviously this is a very condensed version. Somewhere after I got divorced, I kind of made up my mind that whatever it takes, I'm going to hunt, until my feet fall off, basically. And I have definitely conquered that goal. Like I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I was going to do it one way or another. And in the middle of that, I got into the stick bow thing. And now I'm pretty much, in fact, I mean, I'll grab a gun. I think I shot a couple animals with a gun this year, but the stick bow thing is just kind of enamored with it. And that was in 2016 that took off. So
the stick bow thing's a major rabbit hole. Hey, I hooked up with Wacey a couple of years ago now, and he's been kind of goading me into trying to get after some critters with it. And man, it's so fun.
It's addicting.
Yeah.
For me.
It's addicting to getting close. That's what I like. Sometimes I find myself getting too close, and I got to back things off a little bit. So. You're right. I was just on a podcast with the Black Rifle guys, and that's exactly what I told them. I'm like, I'm addicted. Like before, where I was dropping bombs at 100 yards and letting my shooting ability, carry my hunting skill. Now, for me to get sub 10 feet is the goal. Like it's, when you can hear the deer chewing on its cud, it's a victory. You're like, all right, I'm in this thing's wheel. I'm in its living room, and I'm going to shoot it. Where before I wasn't hearing shit at 100 yards as I'm dropping a bomb at a deer or elk or whatever. Where now, most of my shots are 12 to 20 yards. So that one mule deer where you drew your bow and your arrow was pretty much between his antlers. I mean, that was sub 2 feet pretty much, wasn't it? That was a high country deer too, I think.
Yeah, it's like 4 feet probably. About literally from I was 4 feet above it, meaning the dirt was 4 feet down. So whatever a deer is in height, I was pretty dang close to its head.
Wow, that's wicked. Yeah. Wacey killed that moose this year at like one arrow's length, and I mean the photos are insane.
Yeah, that's running high risk when you start. That wasn't a really good move on my part.
Yeah, a bedded deer and a moose are a lot different. That's, like a hummingbird and a hawk diving down at you. Mule deer wasn't going to do anything to me. A moose will stomp the shit out of you.
So maybe let's touch on some of your biggest accomplishments with the stick bow so far. I mean, that mountain goat you killed, I think it was last year or maybe the year before now. I mean, I keep seeing photos of that, and that's killer.
Yeah, I just posted it a couple of days ago. I had so many people, hey, can you send me that video? Hey, and I'm like, all right, I'll just repost it. It's been quite a while, so I won't get bashed by people about posting 14 different angles of one animal. I try not to do that. So, that was like special just for, multiple reasons. One, my wife and Frank and Luke were there. Two, I had injured my shoulder. So, that morning, the night before, I had injured my shoulder. And that morning I wasn't, I actually told my wife, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to have to shoot it with a gun. And she basically told me, don't be a pussy and man up. And so, which, whatever, I figured it out. The kind of thing where it's not just taking the animal, that part's huge, but family was there. And then obviously having Frank beside me, dropping in on top of that thing was crazy. And then, basically going to half, 3/4 draw and aiming a foot right, hoping that as it tore stiff, it would drift left into the animal with some redneck ingenuity, which, panned out for me, ended up working, but that was pretty wild. And, that year was crazy. I got that Wolverine too, not too long before that, which was pretty wild. Not something you'd see every day. And
was that,
it's kind of like,
was that Wolverine in BC?
That was in Alaska in the Chugach range.
Oh, cool. That was with those, Lonesome Dove dudes, right?
Yeah. I had to put my, my goat tag on it, which was well worth it. And then I got to learn how tough a Wolverine is as I put 3 good arrows into it and it bit one of the arrows in half. I was like, holy cow. But, you put yourself in good positions, which I think people aren't understanding. You put the work in and, you get out of it what you put into it. And so a lot of it for me, and obviously I'm spoiled or blessed or whatever, I get more time off. But even when I work construction, the more you're out there, right, the better chance you are going to have of having something crazy happen. Like, Wacey having a moose run over him. If you're not there, it's not going to happen. And a lot of people don't put themselves in that position, maybe because of the rain or the terrain or whatever, and kind of suck it up sometimes, even though it may be miserable. It does a lot of times pan out when you put the effort.
Yeah, for sure.
When you're talking mountain goat, Aaron, because me and Ty are going to go in on a archery goat hunt this coming fall. But what would you say, like, kind of, some good tips on that, just with getting close to the goats? Because I'm going to be with the recurve too. So,
man, for the biggest thing is above them, right? Coming in from above them is a huge. Like, you can get away with a lot coming in from above them than below. I guess if I was going to give one piece of advice, it would be come in from above them. The second would be, depending, but if you're in goat country, a lot of people, like, it's amazing. Some places they bed and you just think you've glassed the area, picked it apart, and they're in a 2-foot depression bedded, and all of a sudden they pop up and you're like, well, I've been glassing this spot for 3 hours, and then all of a sudden the goat's there. But putting the time behind the glass, but definitely when you make your approach, come in from above them and you get away with a lot more than anything else. So
I watched an old film of yours and the Gritty Gunman there, and you shot a goat. I think it was with Bart. Were you with Bart on that one?
Yeah, homie Bart, yeah, and Roger.
But you shot that goat, and that goat, how far did it fall? Because it looked mangled at the bottom.
2,000 feet, probably, maybe more. And that's not like a internet 2,000 feet. It fell to the horses that we had probably spent 2 hours climbing up from the horses. So it fell. Like, when I shot it, I had it at 8 yards below me, and I actually didn't shoot it there on purpose because it was on a ledge. And I, as bad as this sounds, I would have been better off high shoulder or gut shooting it. Instead, I pretty much pinwheeled it, and it ran about 35 yards, which I was hoping it wouldn't. Died on a really steep grassy slope. It probably rolled 50, nothing major. And I'm like, okay, lay down. And it looked like its legs were uphill and it was going to lay there. And then all of a sudden the legs just flipped over and it fell for 2 minutes straight, probably. Maybe a little longer than that. So, great hunt. The meat was still good. It actually tasted good because it was tenderized from falling off 2,000-foot cliffs. Super tender. But yeah, it was pretty wild. And it was luckily like the guy was with Rogers, a buddy, like he felt horrible. I'm like, dude, if this was going to happen to anyone, believe me, let it happen to me, because I'm in it for the adventure. I don't mind, putting animals on the wall or whatever. I do some Euro stuff, but for me, the crazy trip we had just to get the animal was, the big part of it. Not to get around the campfire and sing Kumbaya or anything, but I mean, I was all right that it fell off the cliff. I would have rather had it not, but truly the shit we did to get that goat was really the story in it, and not something on the wall. So.
And then that's always a high risk, is having a goat fall. So like, you couldn't have really done anything different. It's kind of just how it plays out sometimes with those things, right? So.
Yeah, and that's like, people are like, you'd gut shoot it. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying I gut shoot it. I'm just saying if I would have, it would have ran up in the cliffs, laid down, and I would have shot it again, and it wouldn't have fallen off the cliff. Where if you pinwheel one, it's got a lifespan of about 30 seconds, and wherever it ends up, it's probably going to end up not thinking I'm about to die and then roll off a cliff. So it wasn't that I gut shoot an animal for the sake of doing it. It was more like the end outcome would have been different if I wouldn't have pinwheeled it, because I basically shot the top of the heart lungs out, and at that point he's running downhill like he should be. Well, obviously running downhill with a cliff below him is a bad juju for it not falling off. So
I mean, at least it packed itself out in a way.
It ended up literally about 300 yards from the horses, and we were probably a mile falling. So yeah, it made the pack out easy.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, that the photos from the goat that you shot with Luke and your wife and Frank there, those are cool. I mean, like I show my kids those photos and their jaw hits the floor. Like, everybody thinks that's wicked. So we're pretty excited for our archery goat hunt here, and it should be pretty wild.
Oh man, people ask all the time, what's your favorite animal, and it's mountain goat and mule deer to hunt. Yeah,
I went out and chased those southern Alberta mule deer with Wacey last year, and that's a whole different game. After that grass kind of all dies and the cover's gone, it's tough, man. It was nice having a master class from Wacey on getting close to stuff.
Yeah, you need it out there. You'll get your ass handed to you. Those deer get, I believe, Wacey, you can chime in, poached and road hunted by rifle hunters a lot. So you got to be on your. I thought it was going to be a lot easier when I first went up there, and tactically, you got to have your shit together killing one of them deer, because they have definitely been hunted where I was. Like, they know there's fat white dudes walking around trying to shoot them. I pulled a truck up at a bedded deer 500 yards away. He takes off. Like, that didn't work out like I planned it. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, them deer are keyed up all the time, and a lot of it is due to a lot of rifle pressure. Yeah. We did all right. Ty got some shots off. So. Yeah. Some shots right over the back of deer, and I had one jump the string pretty good. So it was a good learning experience for sure. I can't wait to go back this year and try to get it done.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I'm quite certain I ran into Lander. We were up on a knob glass, and I'm sure it was Lander, but I couldn't confirm or deny.
Oh, that's funny. The first time I went with him, I ended up shooting a really good buck, and we get up to it, and after the shit show of getting it, and he said, well, you're the third one. And I was like, the third one? He said, whatever it was, 23 years, you're the third one to kill a buck with a stick bow. And I was like, you didn't tell me that shit when I signed up for this. You made it sound like it was going to be easy. What the hell? And while we did see a lot of deer, like Wacey said, they're pretty tuned up. And so you know, like you're going to see them maybe coming off an ag field and then dropping into the canyons or going into coulees. But, you know, the thing is they're hunted and pressured so much that you're not allowed that I have seen. You're not allowed a mistake that you may be allowed on a high country deer that hasn't been pressured or, you know, something like that. Like there is no mistakes because you blow them out. And in some of those canyons, you are literally emptying a mile-long canyon because one picks up another, and then all of a sudden you see 23 deer flying out the bottom of a canyon. You're like, well, I guess I'll move for the day because there's nothing left here because I was stupid and popped my head up when someone was watching. And it's fun, but it's also frustrating at times.
It's crazy how far those deer move when you do blow a stalk or something. We had a group of deer run almost 10K on us. It was insane.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, there's a lot of, like how Aaron was talking eyeballs with Audad. I felt like Southern Muleys, there was them older bucks were always with younger bucks and does, and there was just a lot of eyes to beat all the time, and it was tough. It's a tough go, man.
For sure.
Oh yeah, the eyeball thing's a killer, especially when you're a dumbass like me and get tunnel vision on the 180 buck, and you forget about the Forky. That's the one that's going to blow the whole deal.
Yeah. I lived that while we were down there for sure. So I think, Aaron, you probably do more for the hunting community in terms of like spending your own time teaching people how to be better hunters than anybody else. Which is great. I mean, everybody appreciates it, and you're doing a lot of cool stuff right now with your videos and that kind of stuff. I see you're playing with some new bows, eh?
Oh, I've been shooting a border Tempest with Uka limbs, which is about as the farthest you can get from trad as possible because they're monolithic carbon limbs. There ain't an ounce of wood on them, and my riser looks like it's about to fly off into space. But I've had some issues with durability on some of the other stuff, and so, you know, for this year specifically, or this last year specifically, I'm like, okay, you know, whatever, people can give me crap, but I got to make sure that I got something that's going to, you know, toe the line with me to the end, so to speak. And I was really, really paranoid about it. I'd broken some risers and limbs. And so, you know, I didn't screwing around with ILFs. I was shooting a Satori a little bit. And then I had Widow build me a G10 riser with carbon limbs. And I get a little crap about it, which is, I don't, you know, that doesn't bother me. But, you know, the reason is you go to some of these more extreme areas that, you know, the last thing you want is a limb delamming or you know, your riser cracking. And so I've been looking, you know, like right now is the time, right? I've been looking, screwing around with other bows, and I haven't even posted about them, kind of deciding what I'm going to do, if I'm going to just keep shooting a spaceship for 2021 or what.
Yeah, it's a wild looking bow for sure. Wacey is the extreme opposite direction. He's shooting one of those Tolkies. We just had those dudes on the podcast. I mean, they're super cool cats, and they have those tiny little bows pretty dialed, eh?
Yeah, I'm digging it. I like the micarta and the riser is really nice, but that border, what did you say the limbs were you were shooting there off that border riser?
Uka X curves, or excuse me, Uka Urbis, which is a super curved limb.
Yeah. I had a border covert hunter, and I really liked that bow, and it shot good, but it always kind of made me a little nervous, you know, with the limbs being way back in the bush. Not saying that they were ever going to blow up or anything. It's just, you know, I don't know. I just kind of always made me in the back of my head just wonder, you know, what's that going to ever happen?
Yeah. Well, and I did not get limbs from him because I'd heard stories about that. You know, about those limbs cracking. Now he's told me that they don't have that issue anymore or whatever, but with the monolithic carbon super curve, it's not impossible for him to break. It's a pure carbon limb. I may tone that limb down and get a different one that's not so super curved. But yeah, I've heard some stories with the border limbs and some of the more aggressive limbs, and I didn't think I'd ever shoot one, but you know, you always think you got it figured out until you don't. So I think I got it figured out right now, but I probably don't. I actually talked to Tolkien the other day about getting me a 64-inch. I can't remember what the name of it was. 64-inch something is a 2-piece recurve. A little lighter than I would like as far as mass weight, but I've never heard one negative thing about a Tolkien ever. So I was looking at those.
Was it the static limb tip, or was it they're going to be their 10X?
I think it was their static limb tip.
Yeah, really good. I've heard good things. Their Tolkien's craftsmanship and fit and finish and just how their bows shoot is unbelievable, in my opinion. I think they're great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I just got my first one, I think, about a month ago now. And I'm loving it. It's super fun to shoot. I've always shot stalkers up into this point, and yeah, it's cool. I was actually just talking to South, I think, yesterday, and I kind of was telling him about the grip on this Tolkien because I have a bow order in with him. And I was kind of explaining it to him, and he's like, "Oh, I got a grip that you like. I'll send you a video." And a couple minutes later, he texts me a video, and it happened to be a riser that had your name on the side of it. So.
They keep that. It's the Snyder grip for them. So they keep that riser as like a demo to show people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. It's a cool grip with, kind of a bit of, relief for your palm a bit there.
Yeah. Exactly. I kind of grip the bows a little bit, maybe different than others from maybe shooting a compound. So I take palm swell out, whether people probably might want it or whatever. So it's one of those things where, one man's shit's another man's gold. That grip I have may be loved by 5 and hated by 10, or if the other 5, but, I just, the way that from shooting a compound for so long, I'm pretty anal retentive about that grip. And so I think every bowyer I've ordered a bow from has kept that model and called it the Snyder grip, just so people know that have shot my bow or seen it or whatever to kind of mimic that like that same feel that I have.
Yeah, I think it might play into my hand well with jumping back and forth between a compound and a recurve, right? Because I am what you call a pussy and cannot commit to shooting only the recurve. You
know what I did to solve that? I fucking sold everything.
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't have the body count that you guys have, so I can't just pull the ripcord. I mean, I missed a blacktail this past season at like 25 yards and haven't heard the end of it from all my buddies. So let's get a couple of those Southern Alberta mule deer down, and then maybe we'll start going that direction.
Yeah. No, well, the thing that I think guys like Wacey, myself, Jake Downs is another one. They give people false hope. You got to put the work in, right? And some people, Wacey's the same. He's a natural killer, right? He popped out of the womb. Animals are scared of him. If you're a natural, killer or whatever, dedicated, it's going to be a lot easier for someone like that than someone that's had a compound and maybe didn't want to dive in or whatever. Like I would pick Wacey or Jake, and I've told people this, over a compound hunter. If there was, let's say, a competition or something, it's not the weapon, it's the guy holding. It's not the Indian or the bow, it's the Indian.
Yeah.
And so it took me a while to get that, because at first I was like, what did I get myself into? But I mean, obviously, I'm not having any issues putting animals down. Wacey's not. Jake's another one that's not. There's other guys out there. Chris Perino's another guy. Danny Sturgis and Randy Cooling. A lot of good hunters out there. But I think once you make that commitment, then you're forced to do it, and then you don't have a choice, and then it's kind of settled for you, But
yeah, for sure. I mean, Wacey's tapping animals on the back with arrows and stuff, so that's kind of the endorsement you need.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and I mean, that's the thing. I had the clums, right, to help me out. You got Wacey. I don't see why you haven't sold all your compounds yet. You got him to help you. It's not like you're going out of
Well, yeah, no doubt. We'll see if I get there. Maybe in a year or something, we'll check back in and you'll hear that story. But I'm not sure it'll happen that fast.
Yeah.
Hey, Aaron,
Yeah.
I wanted to search on Oki. You said did you talk to Dan? And did you decide on a grip that he was going to get for you on that?
No, so actually what happened is I messaged, it was his kid. What is his kid, Jeremy maybe?
Jared,
yeah. Jared sent me a photo. He had another company's pack, and I was like, no, I saw it and I screenshot it. I can't remember. I was like, dude, that looks horribly uncomfortable. And I said, anyway, I had a couple questions for you about ordering a bow, and he wanted a pack. So I think we're going to do some trading. So I haven't finalized because I'm going to probably have a lot of micarta in it. The grip, we talked and I said, well, I'll send you some photos or a riser or one of my detachable grips from an ILF. Mm-hmm. and send it to him to mimic, just because it's so much, it's a lot different than what most people offer.
Yeah, he was actually talking about that pack on our podcast when he was on here, and he was saying he had to add some foam to it so it wasn't hurting his back and stuff. And I think both of us wanted to chime in and say something, but it kind of smoothed over. But he's a cool cat, man. He's the kind of guy that you end up becoming buddies with and texting about all kinds of random crap aside from bows,
Yeah, he seemed like a super good dude. I mean, he was super chill and informative, and he's just like, hey, this is because I always shoot a little bit longer bow, and he's like, actually, you could hide a pica under your seat, which is one of their shorter bows, and the finger pinch really isn't as crazy as you would think. So they obviously have it pretty well figured out. From everyone I've talked to, I mean, everyone is like, oh, no stacking, a lot of bows that you get from some bowyers, if you ran it on the draw force curve and they stack like crazy, you don't get that with the Tolkies. It's a super smooth drawing bow. So
yeah. Wacey, you still with us?
Yeah, it sounds like I'm under the ocean right now.
Okay, good. We'll keep going then. Aaron, I can cut these parts out when I check in with him. So that's
oh no. Whatever. Believe me, I feel your pain. I got a podcast too, and sometimes I'm like, can we even post this? Thank God I got a guy to edit it.
Oh, I messed one up so bad when we did that Tolkien one. As I was exporting it, I slid my entire track about a half second backwards. So whenever Jared was talking, I would cut him off. I just sound like a complete prick. So bad, but that's cool. So, we're both Kifaru guys in terms of packs, and I've done a couple pretty heavy pack outs with a hoodlum, with a 44 meg I ran last year. Is there a bunch of new stuff coming down the pipeline?
Not a bunch. Obviously, we just introduced the updated Striker XL, but we've got a pack coming out that's more of like a Snyder Frank pack that's kind of a hybrid between a muskeg and I don't know, maybe a hoodlum, where it's the waterproof material, but it's just a top loader to save weight. Cool. It's got, side stretchy Nalgene pockets. That's really the only one actually I could probably even talk about right now. That'll be coming in the next month or two. It's just a large, we're going to have like a 58 and a 7,800 cubic inch. So kind of a 5-dayer and a 10-12 dayer.
Yeah. I definitely want the big waterproof one.
Yeah, I don't need a lot of zippered access for the backpack hunting stuff. Like, I don't need 7 million pockets, and I just need something that'll has enough pockets or option to put pockets on to hold my day gear and try to save some weight at the same time if possible. So that's kind of what that was directed towards. So
yeah, I ran a 44 for 2 seasons, and I was kind of struggling with it a little bit on longer trips, and I just went to the hoodlum kind of coming out of this past season, and man, it's working so good for me. And I just run my rain gear in a couple belt pouches on the outside of it, and it's like a pretty mint BC pack because you can get to your rain gear when you need it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Exactly.
It's awesome.
Hey, Aaron, did you I know you said this on some of your podcasts. Were you able to talk about like your guys' possible move from Colorado to, I think it was Wyoming, you said?
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is we're going to stay here for probably another year or two, and then move up there. Good Lord, I'm looking at a photo of a guy who, anyway, I think that, in the end, whether it's a year or two, we're going to end up there. Right now we're just trying to get everything, as far as internally, inventory, softwares, new standards of procedure, get all that finalized. Once that happens, finding a building, do we build a building? All that kind of stuff. I'd like to say we could be up there in 6 months to a year, but the end goal is we're going to end up there. I just don't know exactly when.
Sure seems like since you guys took the helm, you've been scaling up rapidly. Yeah,
we have. Nothing wrong with the company before, but no. I had kind of goals and admirations of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 day or less ship times. So I pretty excited about getting to that point. And then obviously the crew I have is unbelievable. I say there's nothing I'm doing other than giving some motivational words. They're doing all of it. But yeah, less than 7 day ship times, which you've never had. Obviously, expanding the line in some ways. And we've been working on, shelters. They're not obviously finished yet, but putting a lot of effort into it. And, like I said, like Frank and the crew, they're amazing. I mean, it's all them really. Like I said, I just give them advice when they ask for it and try to make a few decisions and here and there. And then I go hunting. So it's really all them.
That's awesome. Yeah. I noticed you guys broke out some of the apparel and stuff, and it's separate fulfillment now for that and packs. And it was a pretty welcome surprise the other day when I came home from work and there was a Kifaru box there with a bunch of stuff in it, which my kids had already opened, but that's another story. So
yeah.
Right on. So what do you have planned for 2021?
Depends on if your guys' fucked up country opens the gate.
Well, dude, the gate king has the gate sealed up, man. Like I don't know, I don't know when it's gonna open. Maybe forever from now. It seems pretty tight.
Well, there's 3 Canadians that got about 20 grand of my money floating around up there to go on hunts. Wacey definitely did not approve of one of them. I should have asked him ahead of time, but if
we could
it opens up. Yeah, no kidding. It may come down to that. I might fly up and come join you. The Alberta mule deer would be one. Alberta moose would be another one. The other one was the black bear hunt. Then I got obviously bear hunting with Lander in BC. All of those, would be great. But if not, it'll be, the standard. I'll hunt elk and mule deer in Colorado, mule deer in Arizona, elk maybe in Wyoming or elk maybe in Idaho. Alaska, I'm probably going to go on a mountain goat hunt, just kind of the normal, whatever I can fit in. A bunch of wild. I've really come addicted to whitetail hunting. So I'm glad I had that option this year because everything got canceled in October that was supposed to go on. Yeah. So I was able to fill it in with whitetail hunts. So really at this point, like we were talking today about going over the hunting schedule, and I'm like, hell, I don't even know what it's going to be. The draw options aren't out. The tags aren't out. And we don't know if Canada's opening up, but I'm sure it'll be elk, mule deer, obviously guiding and hunting down in Browdad, whitetail, and, either Kansas, Nebraska, Texas, Oklahoma at the very least. And, mountain goat, and probably caribou up in Alaska. It's really just whatever I can stuff. If I can fit 5.5, 6 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bucket, it's going in there. I'm going to fit as much in as I can.
Have you done a caribou with the stick yet?
No, just with a compound. And that was in the NWT. So that's kind of one to check off the box. I'm trying to get a lot of these animals on the ground with a stick. So that'd be a good one.
Have you noticed kind of people shitting on bear baiting? Like I noticed like spot and stock bear baiting's kind of really taken off a little bit more, and a lot of people I hear a lot of hate on the bear baiting, but I mean, I think it's just coming from guys that don't do it, because if you actually did it,
people need to fucking learn what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The thing is with bear baiting, which you see, you're going to get me going. I'm probably going to get a migraine. It's like running dogs. I get if you don't understand it, but looking at it from, and I'm not like the guy that start hashtagging conservation, but if you're walking through the woods and a bear runs in front of you, you're probably going to shoot it if you have a bear tag. You're not going to know if it's a male or female, small or big. Most people can't judge them. With a bait, even if you're a guide, I can say, hey, when it's by the barrel or when it's by this tree, I can put markers to help them figure out how big the bear is. You can choose if it's old or young, if it has cubs or not, because you're going to be able to see them. It's actually probably a more ethical way. And I shoot spot and I don't hunt over bait that often. I'm just not allowed to with where I'm at. But I see nothing wrong with it because it helps keep the population down and it helps you choose the bear, the oldest, bear in the group and not shoot sows. All of those things come into play and you have more time. I don't know what Wacey would say, but most people can't tell the difference between a boar and a sow. For me, one of the giveaways is where the wrist goes into the forearm. It's a lot smaller on a sow than it is a boar. Well, bear walks in front of you, you're not going to look at the ankle, right? You're winging an arrow. Where on a bait, you can tell the difference. So Wacey, I don't know if your views line up with any of those with mine, but that's kind of my thoughts on it.
100%. Same, yeah. And it's I don't know why guys they hate on it so much. I don't know.
Sound like you're underwater again, Wace.
Yeah. Well, what Wacey was saying, I was able to decipher that language probably from listening to too many podcasts. Didn't understand why people hate on it. And I think, when people haven't done something or don't know or don't look at it in the big picture, they immediately just stereotype it. Like, oh, you go out and it's not fair because the bear's coming in to eat and it's not ethical or it's not fair chase. And I get that. Right. And if that's the path you want to take, then go spot and stalk them. But if you're truly trying to manage bear numbers and take the largest, oldest, nastiest boars out of the group, you're not going to do that as easy spot and stalk as you are over bait. It's not for everybody. If you don't want to do it, I'm fine with that. But it's hard to argue. Same with running lions. Hard to argue. I do not have to let the dogs even out of the box, and I can tell how big a lion is from the track and the stride, from the pad. I don't have to let them out of the box if I don't want. And if I do, once the thing's treed, I don't have to shoot it. Just pull the dogs off. You're good. You don't get to do that if a lion walks in front of somebody like, oh my God, it's a lion, it flings an arrow. They're probably not judging it at all, trying to figure out if it's a male or female or anything else, where the dogs allow you to do that. And it helps with population control, and predators are an issue.
Yeah, and then kind of one of the reasons I just brought that up, one of my buddies is an outfitter, and there was a big TV show from down in the States where you guys are, and he wanted to book a hunt, but then when he found out it was baited, he didn't want anything to do with it. He only wanted to hunt spot and stalk, and it kind of just struck me, like if some of these guys actually knew what went into baiting bears and actually killing a big boar off a bait, they wouldn't stick their nose up at it so much,
Yeah, especially with when you say like the big boars, they're pretty keen. A lot of times they'll go nocturnal, which sucks because then you can't shoot them. But and you've done this way more than me, but the location of the bait, the scent issue as far as getting them to come in, all that. And do you not want to mention the show? Because I'm curious which one it is.
It was.
Yeah, again, I think it's probably just lack of maybe education and maybe they just don't want to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think sometimes, kind of like I hated sushi forever until I ate it and now I'm addicted to it. Right. I always made fun of it. Right. Fairy eating sushi. Well, I'm a fairy now because I'm eating it all the time because I like it. But I just think if people went out, set up the bait, did all the things, whatever, I think they'd have a different respect for it. Same with hunting with hounds.
While we're on the subject of people chiming in on stuff they don't know what they're talking about, I'd be interested to get your take on like how a lot of these like our grizzly bear ban that happened in 2018, all these decisions are being made entirely on emotion of people that have never been around these animals, and they're closing down a lot of stuff on us. And I mean, Wild Sheep Foundation just released a a paper the other day about how the same group is going to try to go after black bears, wolves, and cougars in BC now.
And you know what? I believe that same group is actually attached in some way, shape, form, or fashion to the BHA, which is crazy. Maybe we should go to another pint night. But I think that when you I've watched brain surgery on TV before, right? That doesn't mean I should dive in and operate on someone's brain, right? Just because you walk in the forest occasionally out of the car doesn't really make you an expert, or just because you've seen things on TV, you don't have the knowledge base. So, for example, with grizzlies, I don't have nearly experience as somebody like Wacey or the Lancasters, right? I've had I've been around them a bunch and I've been up there a bunch, but the one thing I know pretty easily is when you see a ton of grizzlies and you don't see very many moose, common sense would say there might be a grizzly problem, right? It's pretty simple. Yeah. Well, if people are voting on, it's not fair because, you don't eat the grizzly, it's a trophy. Well, if the grizzlies are eating everything else, you should probably look a little bit deeper into it rather than just shooting the one animal. What is that one animal doing if you don't shoot it? Meaning, how much problems is that one animal causing for calf mortality? How many calves are getting eaten by those moose, by those grizzlies? How many calf moose are getting eaten by the grizzlies? What kind of detriment it's causing on the general habitat and wildlife? And they skip all that shit. They're just like, well, you shouldn't be shooting a grizzly. And then people vote that have no idea what they're talking about. So,
yeah, it's pretty crazy how a lot of this stuff gets driven just by, celebrities and emotion. I think like what's the chick's name? Miley Cyrus or whatever. She's all over social media posting about the great bear rainforest and the and spirit bears and all this crap, and it just makes no sense.
No, and I mean, let's be realistic. Would you want me to vote on things about pregnancy? Right? I can't pop out a kid. That's not my thing. I don't really have a lot of experience. Probably women should vote on that because that's their specialty. They know about that. I shouldn't get to vote on certain things that, while they may be a part of my life, but I have no experience in those, I shouldn't get to vote. And there's literally people that have never stepped foot in the forest that are voting on things that are have heavy consequences for people that are in the forest every day. And that thought process just does not make sense to me.
Yeah, I think recently I can't remember which podcast it was, but we were chatting about how on the coast of BC here, the grizz is just moving down the coast. And last spring, I mean, there's people out kayaking in Squamish here, which is about an hour north of like downtown Vancouver, and they got into it with a grizz there. And it's I don't think people realize what's going to happen, and they're just going to have to hire people to kill them anyways. Why not put that money towards conservation or whatever?
Yeah, we have the same thing in Colorado. I mean, just because spring bear season isn't open doesn't mean they're not getting killed in the spring by federal and state trappers. They're still getting killed. We're just not making any money from it. There's still a problem. Well, it's just not a hunter a hunter. It's not a general population hunter that goes and buys a tag. It's a quote unquote professional hunter that's paid by the government. So our tax money's going to that when hunters could solve the problem by itself. And, I've read, you always, whatever things get screenshot to you. I read something recently, a guy posted it was on Reddit. And it was about the Joe Rogan podcast. He had mentioned something about basically he likes listening to me, but he had issues with me about other things. And one of them was my argument about wolves in Colorado didn't have a lot of validity. And I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like, well, my argument with that is easily you put muskies in a trout pond, it becomes a muskie pond.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you put wolves in the forest and they eat everything. Yes, eventually the wolves will die off because they have nothing to eat, but everything is going fine now. Why fuck with it? Like, we have no issues here. Like, there's no problem with the ecosystem. Why are we going to throw an unknown into the mix? I think that's a really good argument, because if there's an overpopulation of elk in Estes Park, for example, which is where they're talking about releasing them, you could close down the park for 2 days and you could quantify the amount of money lost from that. You can make that money back by giving out tags for people to go hunt those elk. That fills the freezer for a lot of families, people in need. And we know the outcome of both, right? We know the outcome of the money lost. We know we can make the money back. You drop wolves into there, you don't know the outcome. You don't know the long-term repercussions. You don't know how much it's going to affect the monetary gain from small towns around there, from hunters coming in. They could potentially not. And I hear, people say, oh, the long-term, right? Idaho's back to the numbers they were at, whatever. I get it. And I'm like, okay, what has it been, 20 years since they were released, 50, whatever it was. Could that have been handled in 2 years with hunters, right? Where, I mean, I'll go on and on with this, but when people say that's a bad argument, I'm like, well, you haven't been in the woods enough, because that is exactly how it works.
I always laugh at the argument that people make that, they go, oh, nature will work itself out. And it's like, yeah, it would probably naturally, but now there's roads cut into it, and there's cut blocks, and there's super highways for those large carnivores you don't want us to shoot, Well,
that's like saying don't put police in the hood because it'll work itself out. I don't know if everybody shooting each other is a good idea to work itself out. Maybe it is, but in the case of what we're talking about, I certainly don't think that it's a good idea to just let it work out when there's too many unknowns, when we know what hunters could do to handle it and how it would be handled. Yeah, for sure. Wacey, you still with us? Oh,
yeah, I'm out of the ocean now. But the thing, I deal with wolves every day, and I've killed a lot of them. But the thing with them is there's no off switch, and I think, and I know I've heard some people say about the whole Colorado wolf thing that. There's the small part of it is they would rather see the wolves destroy that elk herd or go to than to let hunters, let hunters take care of themselves. And I think it's a bigger part of it than people are giving it. I think that they want to see that. They want to see this destruction of it, personally.
I know. I think you're right on some aspects. I mean, obviously not everyone is like that, but I guarantee that you're 100% correct that there are definitely people that just hope that it does destroy everything.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of it's driven by emotion and kind of irrational ideas of what reality really is in the wilderness, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
So they got voted against an Aaron, last I heard.
What was that again?
He was just asking. The wolf reintroduction got voted against in Colorado, right?
No, we lost 51 to 49%. So they're coming.
And probably no tags, right?
No, not initially. And I mean, that's the biggest thing. And I've brought that up before, is if there was a true a management plan that could not be vetoed or whatever you want to call it by, they're generally like, I think they legalized grizzly hunting in Wyoming at one point, and then it got killed by a senator. If there was a true management plan or whatever, I'd probably still begrudgingly, but I'd probably okay, well, at least they got a management plan, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing without a management plan, so who the hell know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, and it all seems to snowball too. Like once they start getting momentum, it seems to take off. We often have this discussion in our group of friends about how you start giving up seasons and start making these compromises, and all of a sudden it starts to spin wildly out of control on many different subjects.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, you guys were talking about like Miley Cyrus. From what I understand, she was like a major part of the ban up there, and the amount of money she put in for billboards and campaigning. How many times do you think Miley's trekked through the wilderness? It rhymes with hero. She hasn't, right? And it's like, and she was allowed and honestly and encouraged to dump all that money into this. And man, it's a weird world we live in.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's, I mean, they ran that all on the platform that the grizzly bear was endangered. They're not even endangered.
No, and that's what I mean when we're black bear hunting in Prince George, and I see 4 grizzlies a day. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty high number, right? And we're hunting off the road, like we're driving around spotting stock and off the road and back. Who knows in the high country what you'd be seeing? So.
Yeah. So, hey, I'm going to let you get off the blower here pretty quick because we've almost kept you for an hour. But before you go, I'd love to hear maybe some kind of hunting story from BC or Alberta since you got both us here. I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm trying to think of probably the best one. I guess one wasn't the greatest hunting store, Southern Alberta mule deer. I put this, it was right when I first got the recurve, first year. And I put this amazing stock on this deer and I got 50 yards from it and legitimately in that 240 inch range. Nice. Just unbelievable, and its head sticking above. I mean, you guys have hunted out there. You get kind of little terracing where there's little bump downs and yucca bushes. Mm-hmm. And his neck stick, something I probably would have just shot in the back of the neck with a compound as much as I'm going to get bashed for that because 50 yards and no wind, no big deal. Didn't have a lot of noise. I would never be pinned down with a compound for more than 5 minutes, right? So here I am 5 hours waiting for this to do something or the wind to pick up. And the entire time I'm having like this coming to Jesus meeting with myself of how good of an idea was it picking up this stick bow, right? Because I'm like... first year, right? Still hadn't really, things in my mind like would just keep popping up of, you'd be dead if I had a compound, things that have gone now. And anyway, long story short, depressing, 9 does came in and blew it out, and I laid there for 5 hours for no reason. And I thought, well, trying to make the best of it. I'm like, well, you know what? I got to look at a 240 inch mule deer for 5 hours. Life could be worse, right? Whatever. But I stalked in on another deer, about committed a major crime. It was in that red brush. Mm-hmm. And, I got 9 yards from it. Barklow was there. I totally thought it was a mule deer. I get 9 yards. I can see its tips. A deer walks by, stands him up. I go to about 3/4 draw. It is a 190 inch whitetail. I about shit my drawers. I literally about put an arrow through that tail tag. I mean, it was so big. I was like, that's a whitetail. What the? And I'm like befungled. I'm like, what the hell? I let the bow down and it laid back down. And I'm like, sweet baby Jesus, that's the largest whitetail I've ever seen, with my own eyes, which was, pretty crazy. And then I guess one for, I went on a 12-day grizzly hunt in, with Lander in, I guess it'd be the Central Rockies, and saw one bear. Yeah. It was a rough 12 days of snow. And I mean, the berries were dying. We should have just pulled out early, but that probably mentally for me was the hardest hunt because in that area, there is no other real animals up that high. Mm-hmm. So I literally saw nothing. No animals for 12 days. Just Lander. Lander couldn't make it in there with us. It was one of his guys. Okay. No, it was one of those deals where I'm like, didn't have anything to do with the weapon. It was just a grind every day. Horrible weather, cold weather. We should have pulled out. And I mean, it was, whatever. It's better than working, right? I mean, but that was a rough one for me. Not just the weather, not just the sleep and food deprivation, but we also weren't seeing shit. So. Yeah, it's tough, man. But I mean, those hunts give you the character you have, right? Well, that one gave me a lot of character. I can tell you that. Right on. So we're going to have to do this again once Wacey's not hiding in a janitor closet at work here. Oh, that's funny. Man, I'm good whenever, if you guys ever want to hop back on, I'm good, or get you guys on mine. Yeah. Both work for us, man. We really appreciate you coming on. Thanks very much, Aron.
Yeah, no problem at all. I appreciate it. And yeah, Wacey, not to leave you out of it, but yeah, at some point in time, Wacey, I'm gonna have to come up there. You come down here and fling some arrows, and obviously join along too, and try and shoot something if the border ever opens.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's definitely for sure. I was talking to Jake about that the other day, and he was all distraught, and I'm like, well, we could try and smuggle you across in a suitcase if you're small enough, Jake.
He's not. He'd be screwed. We'd need a big duffel.
Thanks, Aron.
Yep, no problem. You guys take it easy.
Yeah, man. Hopefully we run into you in southern Alberta this year if that border opens. That'd be wicked.
No kidding. If you see a giant bald guy flinging arrows at you, you know it's me.
Thanks for listening to the Wilderness Locals podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our channel and give us a follow on Instagram @Wilderness Locals.